Welcome back to day 3 of Engaging India at Almedalen, here at Almedalen Week. Thank you all for coming once again to hear these conversations between different stakeholders, multiple stakeholders from industry, academia, as well as government and civil society from India and Sweden. For those who are joining us virtually, in all probability from India or Stockholm, we are at this beautiful island of Gotland where Almedalen Week takes place every year. It has been on since at least 1968, 1969. It's 53 years since Almedalen Week. And it is held every year on the island of Gotland, where 20,000 to 25 to 30,000 people congregate to discuss, to share different perspectives, and to learn new ways to engage with each other, and of course discuss some of the most pressing issues that affect us globally today. And so I am delighted that we have speakers joining us both from Sweden and from India. Some of our speakers work at the intersection of both the countries, and they are going to be speaking today as well. But before I introduce them, I am honored to share with you that our keynote speaker for today is Bankar Roy, the founder director of Barefoot College. Bankar Roy is an educator and globally recognized as among the most influential figures in community-driven innovation. He founded the Barefoot College 50 years ago at a village called Tilonia. This is in the northwestern state of Rajasthan in India. So what is the Barefoot College, what it does, and how it positively impacts communities in 64 nations across the world via its Sola Mamas program? That's the story our keynote speaker today, Bankar Roy, will share with you. Welcome, Bankar. You're joining us virtually. The mic is yours now.
Thank you, Rupal. Am I audible? Everyone raise their hand. Is it okay? Audible, 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 audible. Years ago, I came to this village of Tilonia to try and demonstrate the amazing message of Mahatma Gandhi, who said there's a difference between literacy and education. Literacy is where you learn how to read and write. Education is what you get from your family, from your environment, and from your community. For 5 years, I got well in the found there was knowledge, skills, and wisdom who had never been brought into mainstream thinking. Only for the poor, where the knowledge, skills, and wisdom of very poor people would be brought into stream, shown that these skills are still very relevant today. I've been working the last 2 years in this.
Bankar, I'm going to interrupt you here. I think we are having an issue with your audio as well as video.
Yeah, maybe an ideal part if Bankar can switch off his video and maybe he can speak so we can hear him.
Yeah, so perhaps, Bankar, you might want to switch off your video if it's on a low bandwidth right now. And then we could perhaps come back to you. Yeah, you can continue if your video is off, but your let's see if we can hear you.
Video is off.
Perhaps, Bankar, you might want to log out and log in again. Let's try this once more.
Impossible, you might not get back. Let's carry on.
Okay, let's carry on with audio. Thanks. Go ahead, Bankar. Bankar, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try and then fix the keynote speakers audio in just a bit, but maybe Bankar, then we can continue with our panel discussion and come back to you if you cannot hear us.
I think Bunker had mentioned there was a thunderstorm coming just before the start of the session, and he
Okay.
was afraid the connection might go.
Oh, really? Okay. We were really looking forward to this discussion, but let me just try and fix this. Rahul, if you can just come here. Thanks. Okay, we have him back.
Bankar, if you can unmute yourself.
You're on mute.
Unmuted?
Yes,
Unmuted?
yes.
So, can I continue?
Yes,
Hands up,
please do.
everybody?
Lovely. Please
Can I
do. Yeah,
continue?
yeah.
All right. So, the Barefoot College then only believes in people who have traditional knowledge, skills, practical skills, and village wisdom, and use that knowledge skills for serving communities with India. So when we came up with this conclusion about having solutions which are rural, there cannot be, I feel, an urban solution to a rural problem. There have already been rural solutions to rural problems. And one of the major areas that we have actually focused on are women. So we felt that in many villages of India, all the men have left looking for jobs in the city. There are only old women and and youngsters left. So why not we train women from these villages who are illiterate, who are semi-literate, never been to a university or a college in their lives, never left their villages. So we thought that the woman would be a solution. So now, Rupali, you can show that film if you don't mind.
Sure.
In the poorest villages around the world, people are looking for solutions to poverty, pollution, access to clean water, and gender inequality. But one solution has been right there before our eyes: a woman. Her voice, silenced for generations, often by her own community, is now being used to inspire and transform. Her lack of formal education isn't her limitation. She has the gift of traditional knowledge and conventional wisdom, and the courage to help us create a sustainable world from the ground up. Releasing her potential starts with a journey, one that begins in Rajasthan, India at Barefoot College, where she meets a world full of new challenges and possibilities. We see her and women like her learning new technology the practical way, giving them the skills they need to become barefoot solar engineers, pioneering change. Upon returning home, she brings light that illuminates homes and powers night schools. She develops clean drinking water systems and teaches others to do the same, paving the way for a better quality of life for all. The proof. Today, over 1,200 villages are solar electrified in 64 countries, bringing new life to over 500,000 people, one woman at a time, one village at a time, one country at a time. The search is over. She is the solution. She is a barefoot woman, and she is our future. Being the change we would like to see in the world starts by empowering her. Share her story. Share this video and join the movement.
Am I audible?
Yes, Avankar, continue, please.
All right. The Barefoot College is perhaps the only college in the world that takes illiterate women who have never left their villages in their lives, and through sign language, not through the written word, but through the sight and sound, train women to be solar engineers in 6 months. They know more about solar lanterns, more about solar systems than any graduate in India after 5 years of university. So we have about 1,700 women. Now the Prime Minister of India called them solar mamas. So there are about 1,700 solar mamas from 97 countries. The best part is that we have collaborated with the Ministry of External Affairs. So all these women who've come from these 97 countries, from the Pacific all the way across Chile, 36 countries in Africa, all have been actually the airfare and the training costs have been supported by the Ministry of External Affairs. So today we have about 40 women every year for 6 months coming to Thilonia, learning how to be solar engineers. They go back and solar electrify their own villages, totally mesmerizing the whole village because they came as grandmothers, but they go back like tigers. They will go and solar electrify their own village on their own. And then when the men see these women actually becoming solar engineers, they are in total awe. So I feel that the low-cost solution is the Gandhian solution. How do you demystify? How do you decentralize technology right down in the hands of rural women who can then be change agents, be role models, and also become solar engineers. Some of them are solar engineers for the first time in the history of their country because most of the men have disappeared into the cities. No one wants to come back to the village. So the village today, wherever they have gone and solar electrified, has actually resulted in reversing migration. People have actually come back to the villages which were in total darkness before. There you see President Macron actually, when he met the solar engineers in Delhi in 2018, the solar mamas sang in front of him, "We shall overcome" in Hindi and English, and it totally fascinated him. So he wanted to see these solar engineers. And one of the solar engineers came from Ivory Coast, and she said in French to the president, "You know, what are you doing with your grants? You should actually be training solar mamas to be solar engineers to solar electrify their own village. This is the solution, long-term solution." All of a sudden, she realized that she was speaking to the president of France. So she went and hugged him like that. There's a global picture there of President Macron being hugged by this woman from Ivory Coast. It was something which actually captivated the whole nation. Today, I think this is the solution, demystifying and decentralizing right down to the village level. And the change agents in the next years to come is going to be the woman. So the challenge in front of you all, gentlemen, no ladies, gentlemen, is that should you ever want to work in villages which are non-electrified anywhere in the world, please come to the Barefoot College and let us solar electrify those villages for you. I have taken 10 minutes, Rupal.
Thanks, Bankar. Stay on because in case there are any questions, I'm going to throw them to you. Any questions? We apologize, of course, for a bad connection in the beginning, but what Bankar was talking about were the solar mamas that now are present in 64 different countries, and they are
97,
trained.
not 64.
Oh, 97 now. Okay. I had read 64
No,
a few years ago. So.
Collectively, they are actually generating in a decentralized manner 1.4 gigawatts of power, which is equivalent to a nuclear plant. So this is the answer to decentralize and demystify, right down to the village level. These women are the first and only financially and technically self-sufficient solar electrified villages in the world, because they don't depend on any engineer coming from outside. They're actually solar engineers themselves, and they can do the repair and maintenance without any solar engineer from outside. Okay, questions?
Questions? Any? How do you finance it, Bankar, is the question.
We have, you saw one photograph of Michelle Bachelet, who is now the UN Human Rights. She was head of UN Women. She was fascinated by this, so she gave us about $300,000 to solar electrify villages in the Pacific and in Africa. So the government of India is giving the costs for training and for travel from anywhere in the world. Now we are looking for people who could give us the funds for the equipment for installing solar equipment in these villages today. That is the biggest problem we have today.
Any more questions? All right, go ahead, Swami.
Total silence. Have I got myself clear?
You can ask your question, I'll ask.
If I may sort of go ahead and give a slight context.
Who's that?
This is Swami Bankar.
Yes, Swami.
Yeah, hi, Bankar. No, there are no questions. I'm just wanting to give a little bit of a context to Barefoot College. I spent time in Barefoot College, and I spent time with Bankar. and the wonderful people there. I get disqualified automatically because I have a PhD. Bunker is very clear that if you've come out of the university system, you can't go ahead and be part of the college, for instance. There is a certain philosophy that is maintained in the college itself. I wanted to sort of let everyone know that, because of the bad connectivity today, Bunker has not been maybe he's not been able to get into the details of what the college is. But what I also wanted to sort of go ahead and put in front of everyone, as far as Bunker is concerned, is that Barefoot College is one of the nodal institutions of India, 50 plus years, has worked with a community-led mobilization model, has gone ahead and worked with people who really otherwise would not get an opportunity, and has empowered multiple generations of communities to go ahead and have a better quality of life, all the while being scientifically driven and bringing in a certain scientific perspective. I thought that I should let everyone know, considering that Bunker, you're joining all the way from Thilonia in a very bad connectivity area. So I just wanted to give that context. Thank you.
Thanks, Swaminathan. Well, thank you, Bunker. At least we got a bit to hear from you a bit. Thank you so much for joining us. We will try and perhaps next year get you here physically. I think that would be ideal for all of us. But it was great to hear about the Solar Mamas. And I stand corrected, of course, on the 97 countries where Solar Mamas are in right now. But thanks once again, and great to hear from you. So we can go back to where we started, and that's this. So as Bunker Roy showed us, technology can be a great enabler. It can empower communities, it can empower women, it can really help in more ways than we think that it can. It can provide education, it can facilitate a better environment for future generations. Now, innovations can also help us realize our shared global goals and our sustainability goals. They can also help us reduce carbon emissions, reach scale, provide affordable access to greener infrastructure, help us decongest our cities, and clean our water systems. To accelerate planetary change for the better, technological innovations are needed to be shared. They cannot be individualistic or just for very few people in very few places. Sweden and India have had a strong open source ethos. And additionally, there's an emerging sharing economy that is developing in the marketplace, both in Sweden and India. So today, under the broad umbrella theme of engaging India at Almedalen, the world is one family, we have invited industry, academia, and civil society from Sweden and India to share their insights and explore ways in which the sharing framework for technological collaborations could be built for a better future. So a warm welcome to all our speakers joining us, both virtually and in person. May I ask both you gentlemen to join us as well? Let's head first straight to India. We have Neeraj Jain, the Chief Innovation Officer, Deloitte India, who heads several cutting-edge initiatives towards sustainability. On my left is Jacob Hallenkreutz, Senior Lecturer with Uppsala University and the Group CEO of EPSI Ratings, which specializes in consumer perception and does a lot around sustainability and sustainable initiatives. And to his left is Anders Andersson, the Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer of Spaudi AB. It's a green tech innovation company enabling smallhold farmers to move away from fossil fuel towards regenerative farming. And to his left, back virtually, is Jay Datta, Head of Design at Udaan, who has spearheaded several initiatives in technology and design for tech innovations. Udan, incidentally, is one of the 100 unicorns in India. And also joining us virtually is Pawan Tahlani, lead sustainability and climate change India at Business Sweden, and handholds a lot of companies from Sweden to do better business in India. So we also have next to Pawan Tushar Jadhav, co-founder of Manastu Space that specializes in clearing space debris. So we are starting from the ground, all the way from agriculture and going right up to space, and using technology to connect both the bottom and the top in many ways. And I am, of course, very delighted that this is such a diverse panel and everyone comes in from such different entry points when we are talking about technology collaborations to help build a more sustainable planet. But heading to you first, Neeraj, I'm going to go straight virtually first. As Chief Innovation Officer, you drive a number of initiatives towards climate action. And if you can throw up the virtual guest on that platform, on that television, if it's possible. Could you throw some light on what these collaborations are and what these innovations are, and how do you see the role of innovation ecosystems in contributing to a sustainable planet?
So I think the key answer lies in understanding or realizing, appreciating two things. One is, it's not inventions we are talking about. It's about best practices. It's about innovation that we're talking about. The second one is that small steps can lead to big outcomes. And when we look at where Deloitte is positioning itself, we are taking a holistic approach, an ecosystem approach, wherein we are saying what are some of the services that we have been traditionally rendering to our clients, where we can now bring in the sustainability element as we give advice to our clients. More and more of our clients, by the way, given the awareness on the ESG agenda, are open and demanding that we do so. So it's not like, we are working in isolation. The second thing that we are doing is we recognize that there are a lot of innovations that are happening in the marketplace by startups. And certainly we have Manastu Space today here as a prime example. We will hear from Tushar. But we recognize that, and we are building ecosystem partnerships to help scale some of those solutions which are more sustainable, which can replace conventional solutions. The new solutions being more sustainable, the role that Deloitte is playing is helping commercialize and scale up these more sustainable solutions in a much more faster manner, again, as a result of the ecosystem. So those are things that we are doing in the external world. And on the internal side, as a professional services firm, and I think the professor there, the EPSI CEO would recognize it. In line of duty of servicing our clients, we do incur, certainly pre-COVID, we used to incur a massive carbon footprint. There is a realization, and Deloitte has given a commitment of trying to reduce its carbon footprint that was there pre-pandemic. And again, we recognize that it is sum of the parts. So every Deloitte practitioner has undertaken a mandatory climate acclimatization, mindset acclimatization course, wherein we are recognizing the footprint in the small things that we do, and then committing to what are some of those activities that we would do differently that allow us to contribute. So we are becoming more and more conscious. So those are some of the things that we as Deloitte, both from a perspective of an ecosystem impact, as well as putting our own house into a more sustainable, I would say, territory, Rupali, that we are doing here at Deloitte. And as I said to you again, to reinforce, it's all about thinking what is available, what building blocks are available, and which help us position ourselves in every dimension on a much more sustainable manner.
Right. Well, thanks for that. And let's come back here to Sweden, and we have Anders with us, who works very closely with India, a Swedish innovation enterprise that's working with India, well, a startup. Now, how do you bridge the innovation divide or the sort of the different context between India and Sweden through your technology? And we'd like to hear firsthand of making technology here that perhaps fits in India as well. So context matters a lot, Anders.
Yes, it does. And first of all, our innovation was kind of, it came out from a pure selfish need, and that was to circulate and grow crayfish in Uppland.
Okay.
It was a hobby project, and that kind of failed because we got bored with doing it. And then a number of years later, we realized that what we had invented then would fit perfectly to exchange diesel pumps for smallhold farmers in the world in becoming solar-driven irrigators rather than diesel-powered irrigators. So we restarted the project, but with a focus on solving a big problem for smallhold farmers. And India was our starting point. We got help from Business Sweden and Swedish Energy Agency to go there and study the market. And after a couple of years there, we actually had a well-working, functioning prototype that is now a product, a commercial product that is being sold in India and elsewhere, still in fairly low numbers. You know, we have maybe 1,000 installations in the world, but now we are rolling it out in the hundreds per month, and from next year it's going to be in the thousands per month. So it's growing rapidly, and it's also an innovation that takes time to have the market adapting to, because we are actually selling a product that nobody knows exists. A solar-powered mobile device that can irrigate 1 acre of land. When you tell that to somebody, they don't believe you. So we have to show everybody that it's actually working. So we have to go from village to village, showcasing our product. And we call this concept seeing is believing. Nobody will believe it until they see it. So it's a very time-consuming process, but we have from about little over a year ago a strong relationship with Siva in western India, based in Gujarat, but located in most of the Indian states. Siva is short for Self-Employed Women's Association, and they are 1.9 million members in India alone. And through that grassroots organization, we're able to scale up the seeing is believing concept. Mm-hmm. So now we're training Siva field agents to do this together with us, and that's also why we're getting the ramp up so quickly right now. It's thanks to these women.
Right. You're talking about seeing is believing. I'm going to throw a curveball at Tushar. Tushar, seeing is believing perhaps in space might not hold for us who are here on Earth, but you are in a very interesting space, well, figuratively and literally. Tell us more about it. How are you driving sustainability in space?
Actually, seeing is believing is actually the space is the best way to do that.
Okay.
Because space gives you a very different way to look at the Earth. Okay, and especially if you remember when the COVID started, there was a lot of information about pre-COVID pollution level, post-COVID 2-month lockdown pollution levels, and what not. So, and recently the heat wave that was in India, and what was the effect of heat wave. and how it was affecting different part of country and its effect on the bigger population. So all this became possible because of a space. So what we believe is seeing is a believing is a very different point of view, and that is through space, and that is leading to a new way of solving a problem, be that of a climate, be that of a farming. You can predict what is the farm output of a particular country of a corn, or what is a disaster is happening, what is a way of strategy of mitigating that disaster, and whole gambit of a things are possible through the space. And we call it as a like a internet revolutionized the way we solve the problems. So the space is, we believe, that's new platform to solve the problems on the earth. And at Manastu Space, that is the core belief, and we want to make that as a sustainable through our propulsion system to avoid the debris, whether right. So before we get into more detail, we didn't leave the space pollution also as a humanity. So we have increased the space pollution through the debris in space.
True.
And now it's we needed, with the new help of technology, we are on that mission to reduce the space debris pollution and avoid the space debris pollution, so that our satellites are safe and our millions and billions of people get benefits of this new way of looking at the earth, communicating on the earth. That is the space. For this, what we are doing is we are building new propulsion system, a new fuel and engine which is a green, safe and affordable, and that will help in avoiding this debris. So a lot of interesting things are happening, a lot of in the space to drive the climate action, fight against climate change, and we are helping through our green propulsion system to lead that, to make it more accessible and safe space.
Right. Right. Thanks for that, Tushar. And Pawan, I'll come to you and then to you, Jacob. But talking about Sweden India businesses and talking about how technology can be shared, how it can be collaborative. I touched upon context with Anders a little, but I'd like to elaborate on that a little more, because a technology perhaps that is made in Sweden may not be fit for India. A technology which is made in India perhaps may not be fit for Sweden. You work at the intersection of both the countries. How have you seen the technology adaptability and adoptability change over the last few years?
Absolutely, Rupali. So, I mean, from an India-Sweden context, what we work towards is kind of combining the Swedish innovation prowess with that of the Indian entrepreneurial spirit to develop localized solutions which are fitting into the Indian conditions, which are suitable for the Indian environment. And then our belief is once the solutions are established, they are kind of fit for all the emerging economies. And it will require some sort of customizations, it will require some changes in the business model. But this is a continuous process. This is a ongoing process wherein we very closely work with Swedish technology providers through different frameworks and programs. And one of these programs is the India-Sweden Innovations Accelerator, which is a joint program of Swedish Energy Agency and Business Sweden. And the program has been ongoing since 2013. And then each year we kind of introduce 6 to 8 new technologies into India. And so over the last 10 years, we have introduced around 60 technologies, and which have established close to 200 projects all across India. So right from pilot to commercial projects, these technologies are bringing incremental green transition to all different aspects of businesses in India. And that is very critical. And so you have to adopt a step-by-step approach. You have to be open to showcase the technologies, localize the technologies, modify technologies, and then of course at the end you have to work out on a conducive business model in an Indian context. So that is a very critical part of ensuring that the knowledge is exchanged, the technologies are get established in a local condition, and then the expertise is kind of transferred from Sweden to India and vice versa as well. And it's very important to look into the process of accelerating the adoption of technology. And if we are able to accelerate this process, we definitely always have a a unique opportunity to develop a sustainable and equitable future. At the end, it's the world is one family, and sustainability is everybody's business. So we need to work accordingly.
Right, Pavan. And I'm going to take some of those points and actually put it to you. We are talking about adaptation and adaptation and collaboration, all of it. One key component in this is the customer. And if the customer feels comfortable with the technology, then perhaps we can help technology grow and we can make technology for good. That's an area that you are focused on a lot. How how do you think it is really being used enough when we are creating technology and when we are adapting technology to different regions?
Well, I think first to start with, I think the whole discourse of sustainable development suffers from a gap between theory and practice.
Right.
And that's why I really endorse what Mr. Banker-Roy said: decentralize, demystify. And I truly believe in co-creation processes with end users or customers and other important stakeholders. And I also truly believe in these emergent stepwise change strategies, which is about facilitating learning and also about staying in motion. And I almost said get the shit done, but you can't say that in this context. But get the work done, because there is a lot of talk about sustainability, quite little action, at least from a Western context. Yes, customer focus is crucial, and I feel that we as the sort of I'm a sort of research representative today, but I see myself as a pracademic because I have one sort of leg in academia and one out in the so-called real world where I do market research. And I think that customer focus is neglected. Mm-hmm. We have quite a strong focus on product and CO2 emissions and footprints and such, which is of course crucial, but we must not, in these development processes, forget customer needs, demands, expectations, perceptions, and preferences.
Right. And talking about perhaps a customer perspective as well, Jay, if I can bring you in this conversation, you design for good technology and you design for innovation. One of the examples I believe that you have been very closely involved in is designing for certain situations like the pandemic. Could you elaborate on that and how the customer focus needs to come in, how the sustainable development focus comes in when you design for good technology?
Yeah, thanks, Rupali. I think the app that we designed during the pandemic was something called Arogya Setu. I'm pretty sure everyone who's an Indian on this panel has used it, had it in your pockets, had to sort of use that mandatorily at one point of time. I think it was an example of, I think what Anders was referring to, get it done. I mean, get it done super fast. We had to get it out in almost 3 weeks, and we cobbled together a private government partnership with a lot of people being on that team overall. I led the design initiative, and it was a very, very tough one. I think the other one was, of course, that we had to sort of make it collaborative, because we are actually presenting a situation which is unprecedented. I mean, neither have we seen it in but generations before us haven't seen it, can't remember anything of it. But this time around, we have technology. And I think what we were trying to do is try to predict. It's a probability kind of that we are trying to do, right? But the common man wouldn't understand this whole thing. How do we make it accessible for them? So we started getting out. So it's almost like day one, what we got out seemed like a scientific paper out there in the hands of people, and versus day two. So we were actually like almost working around the clock with a lot of remote research also being done. I think the other thing was data from the constituencies of various MPs and MLAs and the Prime Minister himself. We saw data coming in from, and we were very closely working with the Prime Minister's office and I think a lot of government agencies involved in this whole tracking. How do we get it? Are people getting it? Are they being misled? Do we understand it? We had a legal person on board. So I think it was a very, very challenging situation. And I think we got it done in like 3 weeks to a point where we said, this is something we can live with and people get it almost. That is one example of where I think many of us have talked about it, collaboratively co-designing something and making sure we get it. But my current job also is in an area which is really serving the underserved. So this is a company called Udan. Not very known because it's in the B2B space. It serves the micro, small, and medium enterprises, more the micro and the small people. Essentially, think about it as the corner mom and pop stores, the small pharmaceutical stores, the small garment shops across multiple villages of India. And after agriculture, this is the largest employer or self-employment opportunity for Indians per se. And I think what this trying to solve is this whole issue around procurement of things. You can't close the shop and go to a big city. Maybe you get cheated. So I think we're trying to bring in a lot of transparency to the whole system overall. And this means including these people in your day-to-day sort of design work per se. And a lot of work actually happens in the warehouses, with the drivers, for example. And I think this is unlike your typical buttons and very fancy design work. This is all about understanding human behavior and how do you design for drivers, for example, to get them for a good delivery at the same time, saving fuel, saving costs. I think this is a great example of good design, good business, and good for the environment as well. So I think we save fuel costs, we save time, we actually save emissions as well. I think a lot of other work which is happening in design, and very interestingly, we use the word design a lot in the org, which is about org design, warehouse design, all sorts of it, is that how can we make it compact, small, and fit for the needs of various parts of India? Because you have further northeast, and then you have the sub-Himalayan regions, and you have the Rajasthan, each very different climatic conditions per se. So I think it's a very, very interesting area where we're talking about sustainable business, sustainable livelihoods, and of course, the environmental impact. And I think I was reading one of the BCG articles in terms of how these small interventions can actually add up to a big difference. So I think bottom line, a lot of co-creation, a lot of co-design per se, and lots of small things which add up to a big meaningful numbers really in terms of impact, human impact, livelihoods, and of course, at the same time, going green in some ways.
Right. And we are talking about several different technologies now. I mean, we have spoken about agriculture, we have spoken about logistics, we are talking about healthcare, we're talking about space. Is there how rich really is an ecosystem right now to have multiple players and innovators build together, or what more can be done in that space? Maybe I can put that question first to you, Neeraj.
Sorry, Rupali, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah. How vibrant is the ecosystem when it comes to different players from different regions? Creating technology which is for sustainable development, because a lot of it is often done in silos. So there are small bits that are done in different places, and then the scope gets a little limited. But how can we truly create an ecosystem?
So to the first part of your question, the answer is, it amazes me what has already been done. When you say and ask the question how vibrant it is, it's like the depth of the Milky Way, the galaxy, whatever you want to. And it may sound silly, you know, how I'm kind of drawing an analogy with something that has, despite all the technology advancements, not yet been completely explored. So it's just amazing what is out there. And hence, I say that actually the effort, if anyone needs to make, is required, is not to invent, it's basically to orchestrate. It is to precipitate, it's to bring things together. So no matter what you want to do, actually the challenge is to discover these. So as Tushar was describing about all the work that they are doing, the Spouty example, the challenge in front of us, honestly, is how do we scale up exponentially
Right.
these ratnas, which is a Hindi word, these pearls, and make a sustainable future come true in much more shorter amount of time, because we have to displace the conventional existing technologies or ways of working, for that matter. May I say that there is an entrenched interest of companies, of institutions, of stakeholders who have then invested so much money, thinking, the institutions that have got built, etc. So the ecosystem is beyond vibrant. When you ask me how much vibrant it is beyond vibrant. I think the challenge is in the orchestration of the scale up, of the commercialization. Why can't a Spouty, given all the business case articulations, 80% water saving, 100% more harvesting, all the things are positive, right? Solar, no electricity, sustainability. Why can't it just kind of pan out all of India in the next 4 years? Why can't it attract the investment from a SoftBank, for example, to do the scale up just like Uber and all the other big technology companies have done, right? So I think that's really where the challenge lies. All the ingredients are there.
Right. Ondrej, as somebody who is so close to the technology, is that a challenge that you associate with as well? The ability to reach out to ecosystems that can really help you accelerate scale?
Absolutely. There are multiple challenges, actually. First, you have the red tape challenge within India in itself. There are a lot of rules and regulations, quite rightly, to fulfill. And then, of course, you have the buying process. If there are government institutions involved, they are sending out tenders, and they are replied on, and things happen, and then all of a sudden there is rainy season again. So irrigation is like selling ice cream. You have to have the ice cream there when the sun comes and it's warm and you have a demand for it. You can't wait. We have like two or one starting point a year when the irrigation is to be there, and that starts roughly in 1st of October and ends last of December, because that's when you have the second growing season after the rainy season, or at least you have to have your irrigation systems there available. The other thing is, of course, the knowledge about the system in itself, and that's a huge challenge for us, because we have built all these beautiful IT platforms of e-training and making the information available for everybody, but then also our target group is enormous. We have only in India about 130 million smallhold farmers, and how do you reach such a target group if you're a startup or a small company? Well, first of all, you have to align yourself with huge corporations. So right now we're working with Jain Irrigation, which is one of the biggest irrigation companies in the world. We are in talks with other big Indian organizations that we are aligning with and starting strategic relationships with soon. So that's the other way, because we need to have distribution, and we can't have distribution town by town or village by village. We have to go pan-India as quickly as possible. And then, of course, the third one is production. And the only way to produce fast is to have a production partner in the country. So you don't have to bring in all the components. I mean, a Spouty system is built of about 70 components, and the components are coming from all over the world. And if one component is missing, you can't deliver the system. So that's the third challenge, production. And then, of course, we have to also make the hurdle as low as possible for the target group to acquire the system, because we're talking about a target group that is limited in the ability to pay for the system. So we have to form alliances with financial institutions to create soft leasing products where we actually, the incentive for the farmer is that the cost of the system should be less than filling up your gasoline tank with petrol.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, that's an interesting point. How do you make technology more affordable compared to the existing systems of using fossil fuel? But I'm going to, let's look for solutions. We've talked about the challenges. Jay and Pawan, I'm going to bring you all in, and then Jacob as well, and Tushar. But putting that to you first, Jay, here's a challenge on on a good technology, but the challenge is distribution. How can platforms like Udan, and there are other open source platforms as well, help that part of the puzzle?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one for sure. Part of this is the fact is, how do we humanize tech, and how do we fundamentally change the behavior? This is one of the biggest things that I see. The problem is not necessarily good tech or great tech or manufacturing or distribution even. Sometimes even when you have it, and I think Anders mentioned that, seeing is believing, it's that people want to actually touch, feel, and see how does it change their lives? Does it really do that? If it is, then people will go all out and do it. And I think part of it is really to involve the grassroots level in terms of, I think one of the big things which is there today is people may not be doing a lot of different technological kind of tweaking generally, but they have adapted consumption via, let's say, YouTube, for instance, kind of, right? And or a TikTok or whatever the TikTok equivalent is in India. And you will see a lot of people, even from villages, starting to use these. These are such simple technologies. So one is that whole communication part of it. One is democratizing and kind of getting it out to the masses. The other is to see that how can the adaptation be there. I've seen through my years, I mean, I was with Adobe and a whole bunch of other companies, which is that, sometimes as technology folks, we have the technology looking for a problem. And this is the real issue I find, that the human beings at the other end might not see it as a problem or might have another sort of thing. They need to it has to be a pull as opposed to a push mechanism. And I think that probably is the fundamental way of doing it. If it is, it's the same saying, right? If you make a better mousetrap, people will line up to sort of get it from anywhere, kind of thing. So I think that I see is a real big challenge, apart from the whole reach part of it as well.
Right. Jacob, you might want to add a little bit on that, on the consumer adoption to more sustainable technology.
Yeah, first, I think, in this post-pandemic society, the globalization has become a slowbalization. So the pandemic's been a time machine, but the digitalization has accelerated. So my hope lies with the so-called market forces, which is the sum of customers' demands, needs, expectations, wishes, future preferences. So, and I truly believe in collaborative approaches, co-creation processes, emergent change processes. I don't believe in the politicians. It goes too slow. So it's up to us, industry, entrepreneurs, inventors.
So we should have had a politician defend herself or himself here, of course.
Yeah. I know I'm right.
That's up for another debate, really.
Yeah, perhaps. But I think if we look around, we all see what we see, don't we?
Right. And if I can get you, Pawan, in this conversation on can organizations like Business Sweden ease this challenge? What's the solution from your perspective?
Absolutely, Rupali. In such cases, what you need to have is a very hands-on approach, and you need to get your hands dirty. You need to start working with the technology, with of course with an intent of impacting a wider audience, but kind of enabling the technology by connecting them to right stakeholders. India is a complex market from different angles, and you need to be connected to the right stakeholders, right corporations, rural stakeholders, to ensure that you are able to convey the benefits in the right manner. And as very rightly pointed out in the discussion earlier, you need to create the full impact. So people need to understand the benefits, and you need to put around kind of conducive business models. So as Business Sweden, what we do is we work very closely with all the innovative Swedish technologies, helping them, of course, first getting the right understanding of the market, but also then providing hands-on support on putting a right business model, getting connected to the right stakeholders. So that's the way to key. That's a key to kind of succeed in a complex environment like India.
Right, and we also touched upon cost. Under you referred to that, sort of the cost of the technology may not be fit for perhaps the region that the technology is looking to as a market. Tushar, if I can bring you in here, you deal with space. That's expensive technology. How can you make it cheap? Is there a low cost approach to sustainability in space?
Yes. So cheap is a very controversial word. I'll put it more like affordable
Low
technology.
cost. Yeah.
Yeah, affordable will be a better word, because when the value is more and the cost, then that's where the affordability comes into the picture. And you'll be surprised, but from outside it looks like the space is all that flashy in terms of the numbers. Everything is runs in hundreds. Nothing below $200 billion is worth mentioning in the space forum. But actually, that is not the case. Especially last 5 to 7 years, the way the cost of doing business in a space, that includes building a satellite, building the components, building the launch vehicles, and then launching. So the most important indicator the space uses, how much the cost of launching 1 kg from Earth to space, and that is exponentially order of magnitude, like 10 times it is decreasing since last 10 years to last 5 years to now, and we believe in next 3 to 4 years, 5 years, it will go even 10 times more. Right. So it's like 100-time reduction in the cost of launching something from ground to space in the span of say maybe 10-12 years or so. Mm-hmm. What does that do? That does like a geo movement for a space. What geo did to Indian communication, reducing the data rates like nowhere before, no unheard of. Something is happening in the space, and that has led to the rise of the services that were never even thought of, like constellation of satellites who will monitor Earth, all sorts of Earth 24/7, giving you intelligence regarding many small things that is happening in the world, be that of a border security to be that of a climate change. Mm. And that is the way, now the space industry is moving towards auto industry in terms of a scale production, in terms of, earlier it was bigger mission, longer mission, fatter mission was a good. Now it is a smaller, more regular, and more the cheaper mission is the norm, right, thanks to industry's approach. So all these things is leading to the way of doing space accessing in a very, very affordable way. And the low-cost technology or affordable technology, doing it with a material that is available and reusing a technology, like Elon Musk is reusing a rocket. Right. So these are the ways the space is reducing a cost and reaching to the more and billions of people across the world.
Thanks, Tushar. And we're kind of running out of time, but I will give everyone perhaps 15 seconds each, 20 seconds each to sum up or to give. If you could look at what is the most important criteria right now in accelerating technology towards attaining our sustainability goals, what would it be? Would it be low cost? Would it be going micro? Would it be ecosystem? Let's start with you, Jacob.
Decentralize, demystify, and get the work done.
Anders.
Well, for us, it's kind of twofold. For the farmer, it's about creating or empower them to make more money, to increase their livelihood or the quality of life. And for the world, it's to reduce CO2 emissions, of course. I mean, one system won't change anything, but if we can get 10 million Spouty systems out there and reduce the market with 10 million of diesel pumps, 7 million tons of CO2 emissions will be taken out of the equation yearly.
Pavan?
Yeah, so co-creation and accelerated deployment. The technologies are already there. We don't need to invent. It's more about finding the innovative business models, innovative ways of localizing those technologies. These will be my...
Right. Tushar?
I think accelerating technology, it's not about technology, it's about people. We should start taking the people-centric approach and answers will automatically emerge.
A people-centric approach. Jay?
Yeah, I think Tushar stole my words, but I'm a designer who talks about human-centric design. So I think that's a given. But I think good intent combined with everyday action, however small or big, but I think that's very, very important to accelerate towards that.
Right. And Neeraj, final words.
So with Pavan, I think commercialize, scale up, everything is already there. We just need to discover and bring to the center stage some of these more sustainable practices and models that are already, technology is already showing us the way there. We just need to bring them to center stage.
Right. And if I can bring in one more where we started community, that is something that Bankar Roy spoke about, and he has over the last 50 years demonstrated it as well. So that would be kind of my my little input into this conversation. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. It has been a very interesting debate. We've spoken about the challenges, potential solutions, perhaps the ability to scale and what stops us from scaling as well. We've talked about financing, low-cost models, markets, and customer perception. So hopefully all of it together can enable us to create better technology for our better future and our shared planet. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And with that, we'll end today's debate.
Thank you, everyone.